What's up, everybody? How we doing? Welcome to Devon's Movie Dungeon. That's right. Your favorite, usually every other week, Yap show, where I, Devon, that's me, I'm in the title, talk about movies that I've been watching and talking movie news that I care about or have something to say about and those kind of things. This is srankproductions is the channel name that this is on. We're a variety channel. We do gaming, video game movie reviews. It's kind of one of our big staples. We do streams of, like I said, gaming, but it's also, we're doing, like, for example, a trivia game show, the last one, possibly the last one, at least for the foreseeable future, this Sunday. The stream isn't up on the scheduled thing yet, but it will be. I have to edit the description. But yeah, we're a variety channel here, and as part of that variety, you have me, Devon, like I said, here at Devon's Movie Dungeon. Today it'll be kind of a little bit lesser on the movie discussion of things I've been watching, because I haven't watched that many movies since we last did this, and I didn't really want to wait another week because I've been super busy, and I think it'll continue to be busy for the next 2 weeks, so I don't even know if the one episode after this in 2 weeks potentially will be happening or not. We'll see. But this one I did have some kind of news to talk about. We'll be focusing on the big box office numbers that Obsession and Backrooms have had, along with Devil Wears Prada 2, and but in the grand scheme of all that, May was the best box office numbers since I think 2019. We have an article about that, and how I think a lot of it is tied to younger audiences coming out to theaters, and this despite the economy being in a rough spot, and will probably be in a rough spot. So this is also after COVID, and obviously we're in a streaming world as well. So we're talking about that. Yeah, talking about some things I've been watching. I only have 2 things on the docket today. Yeah, we'll be diving more into Backrooms more specifically tonight, because I didn't see that though. But yeah, let's get going here. Let me get my web page opened. There we go. So yeah, I think the order we'll go in is maybe reverse order, because I saw Backrooms on June 4th, but I did watch. I don't think I bought this. I think this was Bryn's. Les Miserables. I've had this on DVD. We've had this on DVD. And anyone who follows Sock Gang, which is my Counter-Strike group there, me, David, who's also on this channel, Not, my brother, and Zed. We've been playing Counter-Strike together for almost, I think, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years now. I think it might be 6 years. And that's on a different channel. It was on Twitch for a while, but now it's on YouTube. But recently, in the last couple months, I made just a stupid joke in passing while playing the game about Les Mis. Not really. Les Mis wasn't really the punchline, really, but I guess it kind of is. Even though I've never seen it. Obviously, it's a musical, so I've also never seen the musical. But it was just a passing joke where we were, I think, losing in one of the games or maybe winning. Doesn't really matter. But I wrote in the chat just being like, "Can you hurry up, please? I have a showing of Les Mis to go to." It was basically the joke, and then Nat and I were doing like an awful French accent and going "Les Miserables." Kept saying that. I don't know. It's just stupid joke. But I was like, shit. We actually have this on DVD. Maybe we should watch it. And Bryn's like, oh my god. And the other night we were trying to find something to watch, and Bryn's like, we're going through our kind of master list that we have in our heads. And then I threw out Les Mis because I was like, oh yeah, we still have Les Mis. Because I've been going through, if you've been watching some of these other streams, once in a great while for trying to find something to watch. We don't see anything on any of the streaming subscriptions we have. Been going through our DVD, Blu-ray collection. So yeah, she kind of got to that point and was like, hey, let's watch Les Mis. Also Anne Hathaway, right? I mean, this cast is crazy. Let me just go to here. This first off, should start with this. This is directed by Tom Hooper, who directed the last movie he's directed, movie-wise, is Cats, which Ethan and I saw opening night in 2019, with a bunch of old people, instead of Star Wars, which in a way was kind of better, in a way. Not saying Cats was great, but in a way. But we watched Cats, and you're wondering why the fuck did we see Cats? Because the animation studio that did Sonic the Hedgehog was part of that. So we were like, we're doing the homework. Because back then, before this was S-Rank Productions, this was the Sonic Movie Show, was the YouTube channel. We do have the podcast still called the Sonic Movie Show, where we review movies, video game movies. But back then, it was supposed to be a one-off podcast. It was going to be one and done when the Sonic movie came out, pretty much. Then the movie wound up being a Cinderella story, and it took off from there. Long story short. But so there was quite a few times when we were first starting out of what podcasts, like what episodes we should do. And so we even watched Where the Wild Things Are, because same designers were on that, and then also Jeff Fowler, the director of Sonic in 2 and 3 and 4, was also involved in that. It's one of his first works. I think he was like the animation lead or something like that. But yeah, to kind of bring it full circle, Tom Hooper, Cats. I also think he did the critically acclaimed, if I'm not mistaken, there's Cats right there. It looks worse than what I remember. It wasn't great before. It was kind of, it was a little crazy, but like I kind of dug it because of how crazy it was. But the last thing I think he's did was there's two things. A Paramount times CBS Sports commercial about the Champions League, and then a Chevrolet commercial. So Cats kind of has gave him a pause. I don't know what he's working on next. Actually, Photograph 51, I guess, is coming out sometime soon. Pre-production, but it says 2026, so we'll see. But he's directed a bunch of stuff. His Dark Materials did a couple episodes, looks like. He was the Danish Girl director. I haven't seen that, but I think Bryn did. And then, yeah, Les Miserables in 2012. I didn't even realize this movie came out. Like, for some reason, I thought it came out in, like, 2006 for me. I don't know why, but off by 6 years. This is a 2012 movie. And it did win, as you can see here on the box. All right, it was up for 8 Academy Award nominations in 2012, including Best Picture. Didn't win, but it did win 3 Golden Globe awards, including Best Picture for the comedy or musical category. So, and then Kyle Smith for the New York Post wrote the best film of the year. So I was kind of intrigued. All right, I'm doing even, to me, it's like homework in a way. So, but yeah, Tom Hooper, crazy cast, which is my original comment before I went on that rabbit hole of Tom Hooper. Crazy cast. You have Hugh Jackman, which I think this is for his first musical role. I know he was a theater guy. I mean, everyone thinks of him as Wolverine and whatnot. And he's definitely like when I first think of him, I think of Wolverine, but now I'm going to think of Les Mis. So I think this is his first musical role, I think. But you have Russell Crowe. I mean, I saw him on the cover, obviously, but until watching it, I really didn't think about, I think of Russell Crowe, I think of Gladiator. So So that was interesting to see him do this. And then Anne Hathaway, who I know can sing from watching Mother Mary. This year is all about Anne Hathaway, our queen, Anne Hathaway. We had Devil Wears Prada, we have Mother Mary, and then we have End of Oak Street coming out soon. And then there's another movie, which is also based off a book. It's like a horror movie. I forget the name of it, but it comes out in October. Variety? Is it called Variety? Or Verity? I think that's what it's called. I'll say this, I know I've been glazing Anne Hathaway on this channel as of late, but I'm going to glaze her again because everyone can sing in this movie. I mean, I think there's different, people have bigger ranges than others. Hugh Jackman had probably the best range for a male voice in this. But Anne Hathaway, I thought, had the best range. And, what's up, Brett? Hello. Fuck yeah, you can't wait to watch Les Mis again? Wow. Well, you can watch it. Anne Hathaway, what was I saying? She has this one scene in this movie where, I mean, in general in this movie, there really is no, I thought, because I've seen some other musicals. I'm not going to say I'm a musical expert, or it's not necessarily my favorite genre, but the ones I have seen, usually there's a musical number, and there'll be some dialogue, then another musical number, and that's kind of how the flow goes. In fact, I saw Hugh Jackman do that one movie about the carnival, the circus. What's that one called? Back in 2018, 2019 maybe. And that was like that, where it was, dialogue, couple scenes, move the plot, and then we'll get, a musical number. So that's what I was expecting. No, there's maybe 10 spoken lines in this movie, straight up. Everything is, for the most part, sung. In a way, it made the spoken lines feel out of place. It's kind of one of my critiques, I guess, of it. But Hugh Jackman had a great range, but Anne Hathaway has one scene, kind of her big scene, is her big scene. She has a solo in this, and there's some solos for different characters in this movie, but in this particular solo, the camera never cuts. And it goes on, I want to say, for 3 or 4 minutes. And it isn't really from what I remember, I don't remember there being a big chorus or anything with it. And and her character had just great poetic words spoken out, and so it was very detailed. So it was both detailed, but also it ranged in emotion. She's kind of yelling at some parts, being more higher notes, and then some lower, almost baritone notes, and all this is happening as her eyes are watering, and then she starts crying, and she just really fucking delivers. Now, I think it might have been one of my favorite scenes in this movie, because it was just there was no cuts, and that was all one take, and like I said, there was a lot of lines, no repeated, there wasn't a chorus, there was no repeated words from what I remember, and it was just one take, her singing, and her emotions were just she was just executing very well, and it was damn, crazy. And then just to think that I'm damn, and then she was in the movies I watched this year, and it makes so much sense for Mother Mary, that role, even more so. But yeah, she's a great actress. But I think that solo for me in this was I think I said it for my Mother Mary when I talked about that movie a couple episodes back. If she really wanted to just be a singer, I think she easily could. Easily. She has a pretty good range, and she can showcase her emotions through it too, which I think is very difficult to do. But Hugh Jackman, also similar. Obviously he is the main character in this movie. We basically are following his perspective from him being a slave. 42619 or whatever is his number he was given. He had some really cool scenes. In the beginning, he has a big beard and stuff. And I really like that was kind of more of his Wolverine look a little bit, but not really. It was more longer beard. And then he goes clean shaven and he almost looks like a completely different guy. But yeah, fantastic. And and this is another thing. You know, I'm an Anne Hathaway fan, right? But you know who I wasn't a fan of, but I've been slowly coming around to. And it really isn't his fault. It's the characters he plays more, and I'm mostly kind of joking with this, but Eddie Redmayne is in this movie, and I knew he was going to be in it because in the DVD, you know, back when DVDs were good, you know, they showed trailers for other movies and stuff. And what's up, Ethan? Yes, everyone's writing "She's a baddie" in chat. Yes. So is Hugh Jackman, also a baddie. What was I saying? Yeah, Eddie Redmayne, who plays... What's this character's name again? He plays like a rich guy, but is joining the revolutionary cause. Or he's like the son of a rich guy. He comes from a rich family. God, this cast is crazy. Where is he? I'm probably already past it. We're in ensemble stunt right now. Is this in alphabetical... In credits order, verified... Okay, I'm just gonna... Oh, right there. It's right in front of me. Marius. Eddie Redmayne. Alright. Eddie Redmayne... I think I'm officially taking him off the... I'm gonna take him off the I don't like you list. It's time. I apologize for everything I've ever said about Eddie Redmayne. It's just his one character in the frickin' Harry Potter thing. Fantastic Beasts. I just fucking hate that character. I'm sorry. But if anything, it's probably better for me to say all this now because, you know, everyone kind of is over Harry Potter for the most part. Or at least people who like it understand. You know what I mean? But yeah, Eddie Redmayne, he played, Newt. Also a dumb name. Alright, Newt in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And he's like this weird, like, antisocial, weird guy. Just annoying, though? Like, not, like, he has no, like, I think they try to pull it off as if, like, oh, he's just kind of, you know, he's a little weird, a little off, you know, a little off, but, like, you know, you wind up cheering for him. And yeah, I really don't. And then I honestly have been avoiding movies that he's been in because of, like, I guess he did his job because he did that character so well that it made me uncomfortable. That every time I saw him, I'm like, stop, leave me alone. But I did see him in Jupiter Ascending. What was that, 2 years ago? I watched it on the plane back from Japan. And I liked him as a villain. And I was like, all right. And then I watched him in this, and his character is better in this. Like I said, he's like... and this is also a melodramatic musical. Like, I mean, what musicals really aren't? At least the ones I have seen aren't melodramatic. So his character trait is very much just like, yeah, I'm for the revolution and all that. But then I saw, like, the girl of my dreams in the streets of Paris, and now, like, that's all I think about, and maybe I'm kind of not focusing enough on this whole revolution thing. So that was kind of funny because of, I don't know, just modern day politics and where we're at, where, like, you know, whose heart is in the game, really. It was kind of funny. But he winds up, you know, coming back around, even though the girl that actually liked him dies, spoilers, which I thought was just bullshit. But then I remembered, once again, I'm like, this is a melodrama, and I'm learning to really like melodramas, man, like the over-the-top stuff. But yeah, he was better in this, and he had a good tenor voice. There was another guy who was in, like, the Revolution. He was kind of one of the leads in the Red, the Blood of Angry Men song, whatever that song is. I don't remember his name. I don't even know what his character's name was. Is it this guy? Maybe it's him. I don't know. But there was a guy who had a really great, like, tenor range. Beautiful. Loved it. And okay, I guess going back to actors we like and hate and like taking people off the list. There's an actor that before I was as politically educated, I guess. I hate to say it, but Sacha Baron Cohen's character in this was good, and he did it really well. I hate to say it. That's a guy who I thought was funny, and then I realized, oh, a lot of that just comes from making fun of Palestinians. Yeah. I mean, at least he got with Borat 2 there, at least they got Rudy Giuliani trying to, sleep with an underage girl, like, on camera, admitting to being okay with that. Weird how there was no consequences for that. But, at best, he's a liberal Zionist, from my understanding. So he's kind of, on the shit list. I shouldn't say kind of, is on the shit list. So I didn't know he was in this, but I did like his character, and it fucking pains me to say it, man. But his character was good, because it's him and his wife there. I think was it Madame Thenardier, Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah, I think it was them. Where they're like running like a no, Borat isn't Palestinian. It's his character is making fun of making fun of Palestinians, and also he's made fun of obviously because originally he's supposed to be from was it Kazakhstan or whatever, and they actually went there to film some of those scenes, and a lot of people wind up finding that not funny, I guess. It's a movie of the time. I've watched it and did find it funny at parts. Obviously, context is needed, and the further you learn about things in the world, you realize, oh shit, So if you like Borat, it's fine, right? It's just, I think, just still good to be critical and just think about it from a different perspective. Yeah, he is Israeli, but yeah, and I liked his other stuff he's done. And he did a TV show called Spy, which is about a spy in Syria, which I thought was it was him. It was a serious role. It wasn't comedic. That was pretty good. I think I watched that in 2018. But yeah, I haven't seen any of the other Bruno or any of those. I never heard anything good about them. But yeah, he was in this, and he plays a bar keeper with Helena, sorry, and they're basically stealing from every person that comes in there, and that's a whole gimmick throughout the entire movie. It's your comic relief, and it was pretty good. I have no interest in watching Bruno, so I'll never review that movie. He is the Limo King in Madagascar, that's right, which is also a good character. Yes, Madagascar, good movie. Good movie. It's up there, with the greats of the 2000s. But yeah, a lot of other, like I said, people in this cast. But overall, I think I gave it. What did I give it? I gave it a 4. Some of the pacing in the beginning was a little too choppy for me, and then, like I said, there's some brilliant moments with Anne Hathaway. Having a whole solo and the camera doesn't cut away at all, and I wanted more of that. There's some cool set pieces, but then at moments it felt smaller, which I didn't really mind, really. I just feel like at some parts it looked like a stage in a good way, and then they at moments try to make it feel very broad and it's like there's a whole big world out there, when the rest of the movie really felt pretty small. and time passes within like a cut. Like for example, Anne Hathaway's, which is fine. Like that's how a musical, you might have motion to it, right? Where like the character, her hair gets cut, and then it cuts to her getting her teeth pulled, and then it cuts to her being a prostitute, and then it cuts to her seeing Jean Valjean with Hugh Jackman's character there, like confronting her as she's about to get attacked. So no, I'm not even for 10,000 a month. I don't think. I mean, I guess I'll review it and just probably shit on it, but yeah, I give this a 4. It feels dated in some areas in terms of some of the movie like production. Music numbers are great. Like I said, one other critiques I had was there was like 4 or 5 spoken lines in it, and if the movie had more just speaking lines, that's fine. But just the fact that there was only like 4 or 5, it just felt like those were out of place. Like I think it should have committed to just every line's going to be sung in some way. So I think they should have committed to that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not my cup of tea fully. I can appreciate most musicals, or some musicals I do enjoy that I've seen. Like I liked Guys and Dolls because I was in it back when I did that in high school. Beauty and the Beast was fun, for example. But yeah, I'm glad I watched it though. It was a fun time. I enjoyed it for the most part, but I just think, like I said, some parts were just kind of choppy, or the other parts felt way more fluid and like feel like they had more screenplay and direction. And then yeah, some of the story elements just weren't, like I said, were melodramatic, and I enjoyed it for the most part, but some of them were like almost a little too over the top or whatever for me personally. But like for example, Jean Valjean's Hugh Jackman's character again, like his whole premise is like he stole some bread when he was poor, and that's why he was punished, but he didn't ever want to share that with Corset there. So and like he doesn't tell her at all, but he writes her a letter for it when he dies, and it's like, bro, she was poor too. So like that part I was just like, okay, like even with the melodramatic elements to it, I'm like, that's a little bit far-fetched. Maybe if he like killed somebody or something, I guess that'd be a little bit more like shameful. I'm like, bro, you were poor, go get that bread. You know what I mean? So so it's a critique of the story itself. Like I don't know anything about the musical. I don't even know how old the musical is, but maybe for that time it was like, how dare you? All right, even if you're starving, you should never steal. You know, that's what it felt like. But yeah, it was cool. Cool to see. But I give it a 4 out of 5. All right, on to one of our main subjects tonight. Backrooms, which when it first was announced, Ethan and I weren't sure if it was a video game movie or not. But then we were like, oh no, this is... The original Backrooms comes from a creepypasta on 4chan, where it was literally a photo of actually... Here, I'm going to share the standby screen for like a half second. You won't hear me. But it's the one with... Actually, no, I don't think I put it in. No, I didn't. There was one of a goose. Someone edited a goose into it. But it was just like an old building that was taking... I think it was like a furniture building or some type of store that removed a bunch of stuff. And someone posted it on 4chan. And they wrote a little, you know, story to it about how it goes on for miles, and you feel like something's watching you. But I saw the movie. We're going to talk about box office in more detail here, but this is the biggest A24 movie box office-wise, which is crazy. I wouldn't have guessed that. You know, if we were doing a fantasy football style thing and you had Backrooms on it for box office, you know, like, and you're doing box office money, like, I wouldn't have guessed that. But I want to say at this point, I don't have the tweet in front of me, but the top 10 A24 films, and really it's the top 5 have all come out, box office wise, have all come out within the last 2 years. Like even Hereditary, which is one of their like big name movies, at the time I think only made like 78 million or something like that. But yeah, so like the last 4 or 5 movies, because up there is Marty Supreme was number 1 before, now it's number 2. What else was on there? I can't remember the list. I'll have to see if maybe I could find it. But yeah, Backrooms was very surprising when I heard that like tickets are selling out quick. We saw it a week after it came out on a Thursday night, and our theater was packed. We sat like furthest to the right in the middle row, where there's handicap and the walk spaces. We actually been liking that spot now, even though it's a little bit off-centered, just because there's no one next to us usually. So it's been not too bad of a spot. But our entire theater was packed, and mix of audiences, but mostly on the younger side. And I have an article here that we'll talk about shortly after I talk more about the movie. But my big theory is that since Gen Z is the biggest movie-going audience, it makes sense that movie is about things, online culture that they find interesting or have engaged with are doing well. Like, it makes sense. Like, when you think about it, you're like, oh, actually, it does make sense why this is doing well. Because it came out in 2019. You know, if you were 16 when that came out, now you're 2026, so now you're 20, 22 years old, you're going to the movies, you're like, oh, I remember that creepypasta, or I played those Steam games. There's a whole shit ton of Backroom Steam games. It's made liminal spaces, like there's a subreddit I follow that's liminal spaces, because I've always found liminal spaces, I guess, mildly interesting. I like the mystery kind of look to them. I don't find them necessarily scary. So that was another thing going into this movie. I'm like, we'll see how scary it is for me, because weirdly enough, you know, this movie is about a furniture store owner who finds out that he has a backrooms that's in the basement of his store, and he's like slowly exploring it. And I'm sure people out there will be like, why would you explore that? Especially when he hears stuff or whatever, you know, he's encountered mysterious things. And it's like, I mean, I get up to that point, and obviously you're watching a horror movie, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. But I'm like, the fact that I find Backrooms, you know, interesting, the curiosity in me is peaked for me a little bit. I'm like, I'd be that guy. I'd go explore it, and then maybe tell somebody. That might be me on the news. I go missing because I was exploring the Backrooms. But Backrooms is overrated, says Brett. I mean, sure. Maybe. Is it maybe overplayed is maybe what you're looking for? But yeah, going in I had really like no real like knowledge of Backrooms like lore and all that. I did more research afterwards. But like I said, I was more interested to see how the liminal aspect fit in. God, there's a freaking fly in here. There's been every time I come in here, it's not usually a fly, but then every time I stream, there'll be one fly that appears out of nowhere. And I think it's the lights. But what was I saying? Yeah, so going into this movie, I wasn't sure what to expect. And I wouldn't call this movie like it's still a horror movie, but this is more of a spooky movie. There really isn't many jump scares or like there's scary moments, or that moments that could be scary to some people. I found them more like, all right, that's a little spooky, that's a little weird, but I wasn't on like the edge of my seat compared to like Obsession, right? We're talking about loosely about Obsession again tonight in terms of the box office numbers. Yeah, you heard me out. That's my cat. Coming here yelling at me about something. But yeah, the set was great. It did really feel like, I don't know how many rooms they built, but it felt like everything felt familiar, but but then, you know, you could easily get lost, and I really liked that. I liked how it changed over time. I did like that there was like pieces to our main character, what's his name, Clark there. You know, there was like parts of his life in there, and I'll say I won't spoil it, but because I think people should go see this if they're interested in this kind of thing. It wasn't like scary, like I said, like Obsession, where I'm like, fuck me, oh my god, I have goosebumps. All right, when is this movie gonna end in a good way? Instead of a roller coaster, it felt more like a really well done haunted house, if that makes sense, where you might find some parts spooky and whatnot, like I said, but it doesn't. I wasn't terrified. If anything, I was like, all right, this is cool though. I really did like the vibes of this movie. This is a vibe, I guess, movie, to be zoomer with it. But I like also one of the biggest things I liked is that it let some of the mystery be there. Not everything was explained, and there's some stuff up for interpretation. And the ending intrigues me to where if they did a sequel, I'm curious to see if they pick up from that point. I'm assuming they're going to do a sequel at this point. But the director, Kane Parsons, who's like 20-something years old. Like I think he's only like 22 years old. He's born in 2005. Yeah, he's 21. This is his first real movie, and he actually started on YouTube. And A24, you know, this is what's a good thing about A24. One thing I like about A24 is they're willing to give people, opportunities to make something interesting or weird. If you watch enough A24 stuff, Backrooms fits perfectly in that. Neon's been doing that lately too. Neon's there, did Exit 8. Another Exit 8 was a Liminal Spaces movie, same thing. Liminal, without Backrooms, there is no Exit 8, that's for sure. But yeah, this guy, Kane Parsons, he has a YouTube that has channel that has 3.33 million subscribers, and yeah, he made like found footage backroom movies here, and I think there's on his IMDb he has them listed. There's like 25 episodes of like a TV series he did. I don't know if this is one of the first ones he did, but I've definitely seen like screenshots.
Sound, camera, rolling. All right, and action.
And there's a couple scenes in this where I feel like I've seen like screen grabs of, but.
All right, cut. That was good, guys. All right, that was good. I'm thinking we get a wide angle, and then we're done. Okay? All right. Yeah, cool.
I think that's him.
Like how much further? Like a little more.
We're just gonna skip around here, but and the movie actually, light spoiler, does start with a VHS found footage style intro, which, like I said, I guess that's like how a lot of these are shot. So it's a fun little, I think, homage to, I guess, the diehard fans. But a lot of the stuff in there felt standalone. Like I said, there's some mystery to a lot of things that not everything gets explained. You can kind of figure out and interpret things on your own. But what I really enjoyed about this is like it easily could have been a Five Nights at Freddy's 2, where yes, I really love Backrooms and I made my career off of this, and now I'm going to reference all the 25 other things I've done in it to make sure the diehard fans really enjoy it. It felt way more. Yeah, the actual YouTube video is made in Blender. Yeah, this is all in Blender here. I was reading about. But I honestly do dig the vibe of it, man, and like I get it. I get why it's interesting and popular, and and the fact that like we're on the older end of the YouTube generation, but there's plenty of people who are in the YouTube generation who talked or watched a lot about this. But I don't see Kane Parsons here does actually talk about it, how he kind of started doing it. We're gonna watch a little bit of this because I just want to learn more. But yeah, to give Backrooms a 4 out of 5. There were some parts where I felt were a little too slow, but I like that at least got you into the Backrooms pretty quickly. And I did enjoy our main character there, Clark. I wanted more of Mary and Bobby there. But yeah, one of the main like monsters in it is played by Bob Rotsky. Sorry, I can't pronounce that. He played one of the aliens in the last Alien movie. It was kind of a cool little thing. Very tall guy. Why is everything yellow? Because it's I don't know. It's like a 90s office. It takes place in the 90s. A lot of things, and then just I think or is it like a nostalgia filter? I would say. Like I think a lot of things people think of warm and fuzzy. But let's I just want to watch a little bit of this interview here because in this he talks about like his journey, and I just find it so interesting. Like I'm glad, just like Obsession. Obsession was made by people who are like YouTube skit, like they do skits and stuff. You know, they're like a College Humor, you know, or whatnot, and you give them a bigger budget and give them a chance, and I'm not gonna say every single one probably hits, but like Obsession and Backrooms have hit because they took a chance, right? And once again, we'll talk about Gen Z here, but they're both directors are in their early 20s, and there's probably an element to that too. When people are talking about movies, they're like, yeah, we love, you know, the Steven Spielbergs and whatnot, but like, oh, the fact that like someone my age made this movie and everyone's celebrating it, like, I don't know. I hope that inspires people. You know, like, I don't know, just with AI bullshit and everything going on in this world, how depressing everything is and how corporate everything is, like, in a way, I really do hope that like these kind of movies inspire young creative people to not give up on those things and pursue them and, you know, shoot your shot, right? And if you get an opportunity to do it, like, try your best. But anyways, let's see what Kane Parsons has to say.
Art in preparation for
You inspire me, thank you.
And then when Alex came out, I started trying to figure out how I could rip the assets from that. There's a lot of qualifiers you can use to construct an image of what, you know, broadly is being referred to as liminal space, as a broad aesthetic. I think certainly there's a level to which a lot of the conversation is based in buzzwords and in misappropriation of certain terms, but I do think that generally when you're, you know, I think a true, honest look at what is falling into that category would sort of, you know, get you into a space where you're viewing a lot of images of spaces that are pretty devoid of authorship, devoid of a clear sort of character behind the camera, a clear sort of, I think it puts you in a position, like a strong position, to take your own personal, you know, faint memories from childhood, spaces that you know you inhabited at one point when you were 7, but you like a hotel pool, or, you know, the hallway of an apartment, or, you know, a distant relative's kitchen on a Tuesday with light coming in and hitting like an archway in a certain fashion. Little just environmental details that have soaked into, you know, your nervous system and stay somewhere in your brain, but aren't like used for anything. It's, you know, they're memories.
And I'm trying not to spoil the movie, but like there is obviously like a nostalgia element in Backrooms, but it was way more about like the subconscious as well. Like there was obviously nostalgia, but I think it's just the memories of your past. There's other characters in the movie. You know, we go from Clark, and then it does switch a little bit to a different perspective in the movie, and I really did like that switch because it showed like how the Backrooms, parts of the Backrooms for that person might be slightly different, and it is tied to their past, but more also their subconscious. Like there's still things happen, like still there be objects or things that they encounter that are happening to them presently, or maybe like, you know, like I said, in the subconscious. Like if you're having dreams about certain things, I'm much of a believer in like those dreams could be not subliminal messages and like some big awakening or something, but more just like, hey, you're stressed about something, and if you're, you know, like for me, I always know I'm probably super stressed is when I'm having dreams about getting my teeth pulled, for example, or losing a tooth, or falling There is one scene in this movie. The one scene in this movie where I actually was legitimately scared was there was one scene where I actually think what was the one new Control game there? In that trailer, there's like an open, like if we didn't have ceilings on our houses, and like basically you're having a top-down view of like living spaces, but in a cube, if that makes sense. There's a scene just like that. So like there's a big pit that you could fall into, and there's like one little staircase that goes to a door, and that part really scared me a little for sure, because I've had dreams just like that where I'm having to like walk across or crawl across like a really narrow space on like a huge pit below me, or like I'm up in the sky or something, and I'll literally feel paralyzed because like I'm trying to crawl like slowly but surely, but it feels like my world is, gonna slowly pivot. I'm gonna fall off, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of that once again in this movie, and that's what I really enjoyed of it. But I also have a fear of heights in real life, so I think
that when I look
at
that's
photos, also
they're very evocative
part
of places that I can't connect in context. I can't place when I was there.
God, this
or
fly,
why I was
bro.
there, or who
like
I was
said,
there with.
I don't see a fly all day.
So when speaking about liminal space as a photography medium more than anything, I think the first thing you'll find is a sort of a blank slate feeling, a feeling of like very spaces that are just specific enough to really point in the direction of like, oh, I have something to latch onto here, but also very, very ambiguous, where there's no actual human presence to be found that you're going to sort of, feel, I guess, alienated by. So I feel quite seen by a lot of,
I was actually looking up too, like after I saw the movie, of like where does liminal come from? Like where does that, like in terms of art, because it's not like Backrooms was the first time. Like why does something feel this way? And I forget how, like the guy's name. I think it was a French like philosopher or science, or like a neuroscientist or something to that effect. Psychology, maybe it might be better. I think, but it might have been what it was. And basically, liminal, the reason why it might cause a level of melancholy almost is because liminal is like, I forget the exact words. I'm definitely butchering it, but if you look, it's on Wikipedia. But basically, the argument is that like those moments in our life, like a liminal space, or like a kind of a pathway, only happens like a couple times in our lives, and usually like the clean slate element that he's talking about. When something's liminal and clean, it kind of is. It makes people feel a little certain way because, in their subconscious or whatnot, people do like physically go through that, if that makes sense. And basically the philosophy is the idea of like, you have a clean slate, you have a new pathway. Maybe you don't even know what's at the end of the path, but you have a new pathway when you mature or age at different points in your life. So for example, in high school, by the end of your high school journey, you were one person. But then now you're going to go to college, and there's that in between for a couple months where, you're leaving your high school life behind. You're now going to college, and you have a clean slate with new people and whatnot, and you can decide how much you want to, change or whatnot. Maybe you're thinking about it, but you're doing that, right? And then, but you don't know where your college journey might end, right? Or it might be, you're a father, right? You're a father for the first time. That is a clean slate. Or you move to another country or something. That's a clean slate. I feel like I'm butchering it, but it's a pretty interesting thing I was reading about, and I generally kind of agree with that, where there is a level of change that happens in those moments, and sometimes you don't know what the end result's going to be. You don't know what the end result's going to be. But I think a liminal space, like a back room, so to speak, doesn't. What am I trying to say? Like, yeah, like I think it makes it interesting for me too, is because like, a representation of that, where you're going into some place that looks familiar, but it is new, and you don't know where you're going, and it might give you uneasiness. It might give you intrigue. Like I said, for me, I'm like kind of interested in like a liminal space, and like what that could mean, the mystery behind it, the unknown, right?
What people discuss in the liminal space genre, but I think, you know, when talking about the physical construction of these environments, I think some inherently obvious points to mention are that often, you know, by virtue of them being liminal spaces, they're usually, I think in the true sense, would typically be like connective tissue locations. So like anywhere that's not a final destination, like a living room, you might have some trouble classifying as liminal space, unless it's like the living room on the last day you were in your childhood house before you're moving out to a new, like the liminality can come from a few different sort of vectors, but architecturally liminal would usually mean more like connective tissue of a building or a house, hallways, stairwells, pieces.
At my work, I work in an old army hospital, and like my office is an old army hospital, I should say, rather. And so like on each end of the wings, it's very liminal. I have like multiple photos on my phone of where like some of the lights are off at the end of the hallway, because it looks a little spooky. But it's pretty cool. I've always dug it. All the staircases in that are also, I guess, in a way liminal, because there's some that, not all of them go down further, but some do, depending on what ones you go up. And there's ones where I'm like, I only thought there's one extra floor. Like I know there's, like I'm on the ground floor, I know there's a basement, but then I look down on some of these, you know, staircases, and it looks like it goes down another 4 or 5 floors, and it makes me like think like, wham, what's down there? Do you see ghosts? No, but I would love to. There's been some spooky shit that has happened though. We've had elevators will open by themselves with no one on them, or some of the elevators like don't go to certain floors, and weird stuff like that. But they also could just be old. But yeah, I want to do like a ghost hunt there. Supposedly there might be ghost like hunters coming, but not like ghost hunters like Roto-Rooter there. Ghost hunters like the TV show. Like they're just gonna leave stuff there and then come back in a week, which I'm like, that's not as exciting. Y'all need to get here at like 2 in the morning. You know, I want to do like a live stream of that, because I would do that. I'd go down in the basement at 2 in the morning, see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's an old army hospital. People did die there, so I've not directly experienced anything, but people say they, from what I've heard, is like facilities, people say they see stuff all the time, like in the more basement, and lower levels.
That don't serve an immediate function, but are sort of, you know, there and understated.
Dang, we're almost at an hour already. I thought this would be a short episode.
I got into Blender, I suppose not immediately for film production, but just, I think it walks the line between film production, image production, game design, miscellaneous, just art direction, I guess. Because I got into it in the beginning of 2020. I was 14. And I started doing it just to like, I was trying to rip Half-Life 2 assets and like try to do like, you know, I was making art in preparation for Half-Life Alyx coming out, and wanted to just try to, you know, and then when Alyx came out, I started trying to figure out how I could rip the assets from that and make little scenes. I wasn't using like sourced like Filmmaker. I was using Blender instead, because I was sort of allured by like the tutorials by filmmaker Ian Hubert and stuff I was seeing at the time, and he sort of sold me on like, this looks fast and easy and awesome, and I can go out and take photos of things and then projection map them onto objects and they look photoreal. For those who don't know, he has a sort of tutorial gimmick style that did very well on YouTube, sort of like these lazy tutorials where he would just like spend a minute rapid fire going through how to make something, and it just made it feel so approachable and fun, because, you know, he's fun and approachable, I think. I've never talked to him, but I'd love to. And I think that, like, I found that to be pretty true. It's like I found it to be mostly I've never been much of a learning for, like training the trade just to train it. Like, it's usually been, like, I want to make a specific thing, or, like, I have a notion of the thing I want to make. Initially, it was that Half-Life.
That's kind of like me, honestly. Like, everything I've learned in Adobe Premiere, and before that, iMovie was more like, how do I make this? How do I make this easier? Or how do I create this. And it's usually like, yeah, you find a YouTube tutorial. And I don't know if it works. I mean, I'm glad, you know, this guy just made the A24's best box office movie. So that's awesome. But sometimes I do wonder if it actually hurts, because there's plenty of like short keys and stuff that I probably have no idea, you know, what those are, because I'm like, once I find one way of how to make it, I'll just stick to that. Yeah, so it just funny he said that, because I was like, yeah, I'm similar. I don't have the, I guess, patience sometimes to be like, all right, I guess I should learn how to do this, even though I'll never use it, you know?
Stuff.
For something I'm trying to make.
I learn is kind of, like, I'll watch tutorials, but then as soon as I think I roughly have an idea of how to kind of guerrilla style go get what I want in Blender, I'll go as far as I can, and then if I run into a wall, I'll search online for an answer. So I think it's that kind of like project-based learning I was using quite a bit. And then of course it helps that there's a million answers to anything you can run into online, either with people who are already
he sold his soul to the devil, maybe
putting out like resources online, like Ian.
The devil's investing in good art, then.
Reddit, Discord servers, just other people in the same boat who you can have real-time conversations with. So I think it was like, you know, I take it for granted a little bit because, like, you know, growing up on YouTube, you always see channels like Quarter Crew and stuff who are, you know, so VFX driven that it feels approachable and it feels normalized. But I think it's really kind of been like the vector through which I've kind of propelled all of my filmmaking. I think that this film utilizes the exact same pipeline and like way of thinking that I've been doing everything with on YouTube. Obviously we used Blender for these sets, and I literally just, when, you know, coming up with concept art for the like the pitch deck, I just modeled scenes in the film, and so I could have them as images. And then when we started doing prep, I just talked with Danny Vermette, the art director, and we were like, hey, can I just do all of the art direction, or like the, you know, the set direction in Blender, and then do you have someone who can read Blender files, or like, you know, turn them into whatever format you need to sort of process them into blueprints? And he was like, yeah, this works great. So you know, if you were to walk into the art department, you would have seen like on the walls like a mismatch of either screenshots directly sent by me, screenshots that they took out of Blender in order to capture certain like textural details, and then a bunch of like, I forget what they were using. Was it SketchUp? Or
I think they're playing some of the music now, by the way. The music was actually like, I thought it was just going to be like your typical horror stuff, and you know, there's a lot of, I think, natural sound in this, but there's some really, actually, like, really cool music, and I mean, obviously it was pretty similar to, you look up like Dreamcore or anything like that on YouTube. I watch some of those soundscapes sometimes in the background, and it has that kind of sound. The end credits music was a banger. It sounded very like controlled chaos. I can't really describe it, but it was very choppy, but in a controlled way. And there was like, because there was like someone talking while like beats were hitting at the same time, and it created this weird effect. But I saw they're doing vinyl of the record, or of the sound, not soundtrack. The score.
Would, you know, bring them into, you know, proportional, accurate for like our sound stages and everything. You know, blueprint files.
Yeah, synthy, but also just like,
you know, random photos that I and them have come across just for art direction.
At moments, like I said, it creates that more melancholy feeling. Not everything was like disturbing sounding,
a giant collage of
or trying to sound scary.
And so yeah, it really
was very
like
more
most
dreamlike.
of the direction was put into that file. Then you look at the file, and then on like you ask the file the questions. Yeah. Myself, Markiplier, Curry, I think those are three wildly different, you know, maybe not wildly.
I mean, Markiplier's another great example, right? Like, he did that, and like, obviously he had to self-fund that a lot more than probably he did here with, you know, with Backrooms, but still, once again, like, I think we're in that, we're starting to see the generation of YouTube people getting, like I said, getting chances, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there is talented people out there who can do things, right?
I don't want to speak without having actually had a conversation with everyone, but you know, I would presume there's wildly different, just inherent to life facts about each of us that make us use and leverage YouTube and you know, these kinds of tools.
Did you see the Markiplier movie? Are you even a fan of this channel? You know the answer. If you were a fan. If you were a fan.
In a slightly different way. I think I can point to a very obvious common factor of like when you are working on YouTube and when you're, you know, because you can work on YouTube without ever looking at your comments or looking at you can post on YouTube and then you can be a YouTuber.
Gotta have money and time to do this stuff first. Yeah, I mean, that's why one of the reasons I'm anti-capitalist is because I don't think capitalism actually promotes art. I think there's some outliers like this, or they start making money and then they will finally invest in it. But how many people, you know, have never gotten their opportunity because of financial reasons? Plenty of people. Plenty of people don't see art as legitimate or like it's more of just a hobby, right? People say never go to art school or anything like that because of the money aspect of it. And that's because unless you're selling a product, and like, yes, I'm going to talk about tonight how these have done great in the box office, and I think that's more because of the audience and what they're looking for. But I think way more people could do a lot of things that they just never get the chance to do because of financial reasons. Or not having access to things, which is usually tied to financial reasons. And once again, like yeah, am I going to spend $80,000 a semester to go to NYU and go to art school? Or am I just, maybe if I'm lucky, I'll just keep doing it as a hobby and someone will notice me? You know? I mean, there's always going to be normies, but I'm talking about the people who genuinely, like, they wake up in the morning and they're like, I'm a creative person, I want to do these things. You know? And they do those things. There's a whole sub-communities out there. Like he's saying, like, there's people out there who just do Blender shit. And they just like doing it. There's plenty of people who make music, who maybe never tour, because there's no financial way for them to do that. Or if they have toured, they probably lose money. How many people give up on those things, right? Because of money. But I do believe that a lot of creative people still will do things even if there was no... Like, a lot of people make art, I believe, out of the will to just... They want to make art and present whatever they're trying to present. And they will just do that, even if it isn't financially able to. But what I'm trying to say is some people never make that next step or are able to continue it because of money, where, like, they hit... 40 years old and they have a kid and they're like, well, I was a painter, I liked painting, but I just don't have the time anymore because I have to go work my job for 8 to 10 hours every day, and then I have to pick up my kid from school, and then I gotta bring them to soccer practice, and then by the time it's already late and I'm tired. This is like one example I can just make up, but someone could relate to. That's how I look at it, where there's a lot of people who are doing it for the love of the game, but they don't get that next step.
Kind of, it's arguing semantics, but they're kind of two different things. And I believe like all of us too.
How many people will never write that book they always wanted to write, and it might be genuinely a very good book potentially, but they'll never be able to do it.
To a certain extent, I wouldn't.
Maybe they get a couple pages down, but they're always stuck at work, or they're wasting all their energy there because they have to, because they need to put a roof over their head.
Classify myself as a YouTuber who's like trying to optimize content, and I never like do more than one thumbnail per video, and I never really aim for anything in particular. I just kind of hope that I've crafted enough of a niche online that people will keep showing up for that. So I've gotten lucky. But I think that like
what he's just saying here, like there is honestly stuff on this channel that we optimize to some degree, and my attitude's always been like, just do it because you love to do it, and if things happen, great. But don't expect anything too. But that's what he's saying here. He's like, I just did it because I like doing it, and I got really fucking lucky. But how many people out there are making shit, right? And, you know, maybe 200 people have watched it, but that once again, like, art and success, to me, like, they're not really, like, it shouldn't matter. You can make the best song of all time, and it's stuck on SoundCloud right now and has 10 views. But that doesn't make it bad, you know? And there's plenty of stuff that maybe arguably doesn't sound as good and it has 1 million views. But that's what art is, right? Like, art should be engaged with, instead of it's engaged with this implication of, is it making money? Because everything must be a commodity under capitalism. See, now we're getting into Marxism a bit here, but...
You get a very close relationship with your audience, and you understand the contract you've signed with them, and you... I don't think you should... You get feedback, and I don't think you should just kind of listen. I don't think you should take it, like, 100% seriously, but I think ignoring it is also depriving yourself of a pretty interesting muscle that I think we've seen as... You know, it gets someone who is coming into the industry and coming into the world, and I'm 20, and any insight is helpful. And so when you have all those tens of thousands of people, you know, talking about the thing you just made, you might be able to glean a little bit from that. You know, that's an understatement, but I think that's quite helpful.
Yeah, crazy. But yeah, so Obsession. Backrooms has made, like I said, the most in A24 history. This was from a couple days ago. It's $212 million. Here we go. So A24's Backrooms became the studio's highest grossing movie ever in 10 days of release, with a running worldwide accumulation of $212.6 million, unseating Marty Supreme's final global of 191. So the fact that in 10 days it already beat out Marty Supreme, and Marty Supreme had a huge marketing push and whatnot from Timothée Chalamet, our GOAT, as well. But you know, there was a big push around that during the holiday season. Also was competing during that. But so this is, but we're in primetime blockbuster season as well. The Kane Parsons featured take of his viral IP ranked third at the global box office with a second frame of 50.1 million at 52 territories. Total running accumulation in North America is 135. So like you're another $50 million outside of the U.S. Or sorry, 77.6 million. Of note on Backrooms, the pick ranked number 1 in Spain by a wide margin with 2 million. Also posted the best opening weekend results in Malaysia and the Philippines ever for A24. And then Latin America continues to lead in all territories. Excuse me. So it only had and then yeah, South Korea only had a negative 11% drop. I mean, it's just going crazy. And then yeah, let's talk about the next part here. So a couple months back, if you remember, I don't know if did I mention it on here, but there was the Netflix CEO said that no one wants to go to theaters anymore. Well, he's fucking wrong. Because the box office is going crazy right now. Got my thing slowing down. Hopefully we're good, right? All right, we're good. Yeah, Backrooms and Obsession, and along with the kind of tail end of Devil Wears Prada 2. You also had Michael as well, and Star Wars was out, but Star Wars didn't underperform. But still, all these things were happening at the same time, and basically, movie theaters are at least back for 1 month, back to pre-COVID levels. Pre-COVID levels. So this, like for example, Cinemark here, and I believe AMC said something similar. But here's Cinemark on Monday said delivered its highest ever domestic box office performance for the month of May, driven by a steady and more varied slate of Hollywood movies from its major studio suppliers. Ever in May. And that's and then AMC Theatres recorded its highest attended month of May since 2019. people too worried about getting shot. I don't think people are worried about that. I live in Colorado where that happened, and I've never heard anyone say that. I mean, I do agree that people talk and maybe are rude and are on their phones. Like, even in the beginning of Backrooms, I literally saw someone pull out their phone, show their partner a meme of Backrooms in the very first 5 minutes. Luckily, they never turned their phone on again, but I was just like, what was the point of that? No, AMC is better than Cinemark, alright? AMC is A-list, okay? And you can see 4 movies a week. Every week. But no, I mean, like this is only a couple months removed from when Netflix CEO said no one wants to see movies anymore. Everyone likes streaming. Everyone likes sitting at home. And that's just not true. That wasn't true then. It's not true now. And the numbers are proving it too. Like, this is pre-COVID. Or, like, 2019's pre-COVID. Since 2019. You know what came out in 2019? Avengers Endgame. One of the biggest blockbusters. You know, like, so that was arguably one of the peaker years for movies. But obviously it's been a slow downtick, or what, you know, movie theaters were closed for almost a year and a half, and then they started slowly doing limited seating and whatnot. But we're, like, people are coming out. But yeah, we had, like I said, Michael, Devil Wears Prada 2, Star Wars, Obsession, and Backrooms. It's also 2026 is up in total, up 13% from last year. And like I said, this is during when the economy is bad. Things are expensive. People are thinking about how they want to spend money. But because of the quality of Obsession and the quality of Backrooms, and Devil Wears Prada 2 was a legacy, you know, sequel, but it had I highly rated that movie because it had a story to tell. It wasn't just nostalgia bait. When you make good shit, people will still come. Word of mouth will still happen. Everyone thinks you can just social media your way through everything, you know, just do a bunch of ads and people will come see it. It's like, no, you got to make the shit good. Because, yeah, your ads might get you that first weekend, but then after that, if it's bad, they're not going to work the next day or going to school the next day and being like, you got to see the new fucking, you know, whatever sequel, the 12th sequel to Iron Man is, right? Like, but everyone at work was talking about Obsession. Everybody at work was talking about Obsession. I had a coworker who sees like one movie a year, go and see it. And they hated horror movies. And they still went and saw Obsession with a bunch of friends. You know why that is? That's peer pressure. That's word of mouth. That's people being like, you gotta go see this in theaters. You know? God, this fucking fly, dude. But I think another part of this is Gen Z, which we'll talk about here. Gen Z goes to the movies. Younger audiences are driving the box office, study shows. This is from April, so this is not even before May. But during the pandemic, Hollywood worried that Gen Zers would never get into the habit of going to theaters, preferring streaming on their smartphones instead. But Gen Z is now the most active cinema-going demographic, attending more films per year than their elders, according to a new Fandango study. They're also spending more per visit on concessions and premium format screens like IMAX. Listen, I'm not a fan of expensive concessions, but the fact that people are buying them, you know, it's because they're interested about the movie experience, which is like, this warms my heart. 'Cause I've said it many times on Sonic Movie Show and on this stream. Movies, every movie should deserve to be shown in a theater, and it deserves to have a engaged audience. And, you know, like, it's the art form itself. It's the presentation. Because I'm sorry, you can watch, you know, Dune at home, and it'll still be good, but it wasn't as good as if you saw it in IMAX or Dolby or in even regular screening theater, where the sound is loud, where the screen is big, and you're sitting next to people who are invested, where you're not going to be, forced to be on your, you're not forced, but like you're not talking, except unless it's a comedic moment, you're like, oh, that was funny, right? But like, no, but like seriously, like, it's about the theater experience itself. And I think the theaters have been trying to push, they make the seats more comfortable. They're trying to do more like things to get people in the theaters, and I think it's working. But like I said, I think it really goes back down to make good movies, and you advertise the movie experience because it is different. Those two things, that will keep theaters around for the foreseeable future. It's different in Maryland. What's different in Maryland? Because I went to plenty of movies in Maryland. Probably seen 100 movies. Because I used to go to the AMC there in White Marsh. That one was pretty good. And we have some old theaters in Colorado. My old AMC, I still go to it here and there, but because it's not as close anymore. But the one that used to be closer to our other place, like the one IMAX, it has the old IMAX seating in it, where it was just the regular, like the regular, like kind of baseball park seats. But yeah, so like that's like I don't like that's my one thing. I'm like, they should upgrade to that, because like the theater I go to now was built like 3 years ago, so it's very much bigger. But let me finish this here. With the relief for theater owners who are struggling at overall attendance lags 20% behind pre-COVID years, exhibitors largely attribute the decline to fewer new releases from major Hollywood studios. Fandango surveyed 7,000 adults, 5,091 of whom consider themselves moviegoers, or people who went to one or more movies in the past year. See, I don't even count that as moviegoers. If you're only going to one movie a year, whatever. But by generation, 80% of Gen Zers and 82% of millennials saw at least one movie theatrically in the past 12 months, compared with only 70% of Gen Xers and 58% of baby boomers. Well, they're not getting off their couches because they're retired or whatever. Gen Z and millennials also return more frequently, with demo averaging about 7 visits per year ahead of Gen X 6.1 and baby boomers 5.7. Motivations varied across age group. Millennials treat moviegoers as an escape from daily routine, while Gen Z sees it primarily as a social activity. Like I said, word of mouth, being like, you gotta go see this movie, and if you don't see this, I'm gonna unfriend you on Facebook or whatever. I know I'm being a little facetious there, but you know what I mean. Gen Z also attributes a better selection of movies and the appeal of leaving the home as key drivers of attendance. Because here's the other thing. Gen Z has lost, I mean, even millennials, but Gen Z even more so, has lost multiple years to COVID on their youth. I think they're more likely to compensate for that. When you were stuck inside for 2 years, almost 3, like that plays a factor in when you're 20 years old. Shit, man, I wish I could go back. In contrast, Gen X cites raising ticket prices, fewer appealing releases, and better at-home options for reasons for going less often. I mean, but once again, I also like on the other end of the thing, I think people forgot how to fucking socialize outside of COVID, like after COVID. I mean, I forget where it was, but I did see like a report of just like, actually, I think it was in Jacobin magazine, which I have in the other room over there, which was talking about how, like, just in general, younger generations are doing less. Like, they're doing less times hanging out with friends. When, I don't know how the exact numbers, but just for the sake of the point, they said, like, let's say millennials would go hang out with friends, let's say once a week. Theirs was like 0.5, if it, closer to 0. Like, maybe it was like once a month. Because of, I think, just internet culture, phone culture, and then you throw in COVID on that, and then the world fucking is expensive to go out. Like, it feels harder to, like, go out to get drinks with friends. I'll work on a bibliography, yeah. But like I said, the fact that they are choosing to go to theaters, though, despite all those things, like that is, I think that means something. And yes, it's just 1 month, but the fact that we're going to pre-COVID numbers, I think that, like I said, that's got to mean something. And I think it's because Obsession and Backrooms, one, are good movies or interesting movies, something for you to talk about after the theater instead of being like, I like the Iron Man movie, I can't believe he came back. You know? And it's also made by younger people. They see themselves in those movies. I think that plays a factor. Across all demographics, the biggest barrier of getting off the couch wasn't the movie themselves, but patrons cited coordinating schedules, finding time, and securing a deal on tickets as challenges in getting to the multiplex. Once again, things are expensive. People might be working 2 jobs. They would probably go to the movies more if they had the time. Securing a deal on ticket, same thing. They probably will make a Backrooms too. I'd be shocked if they didn't. They're probably already talking about it now, as we speak. Gen Z and millennials are redefining what it means to go to the movies by prioritizing premium experiences, social engagement, and new forms of content. God, I hate that word. Just call it art. Meeting them where they aren't isn't optional. It's essential for the future of theatrical moviegoing. Exactly. If you have good movies and you create a theater experience that fits the bill to hype it up, because it is hype. It is hype. I love going to the movies. It's hype. If it isn't hype, then yeah, they won't go. They'll just wait for it. They'll just wait for it to come on streaming or whatever. But streaming is also getting expensive. Art is content. No, it isn't. Goes back to my main point I said earlier. The word content implies a commodity. And it's not, they are not interchangeable. If you call all art content, that dilutes what art is, which is a cultural thing, something to be engaged with. Content is consumption. That's why I hate using it. Because it dilutes what art is and assumes that it must be making money. We must make content to make money, as opposed to I make art because I have a story to tell. If I have a story to tell, I'm not going to make content. They are not the same thing. Dang, 76% of moviegoers are probably planning on seeing a movie in theater between May and August. But I say all this. Box office doing great. Obsession, well, obviously the biggest surprise of the year. Backrooms is also up there. This has been going on Twitter, I saw, and I looked it up more. This goes back to capitalism and all that. Obsession art director for Obsession, calls for the industry reform after getting paid less than $7,000 as the film nears $175 million. And I saw a lot of people being quickly to be like, well, they signed a contract. They couldn't have known. And yes, they can't know how much money a movie's going to make. Unless you're a Marvel movie, usually they can kind of get a different, I mean, the reason the box office for Marvel, or not box office, the budget, is because X actor is going to get X amount. And obviously this movie was even the trailers were like, this is a fun little horror movie. Horror movies don't usually do well in the box office. But yeah, so art director Sally Choi went public Thursday with complaints she debated sharing for a long time, as Focus Features' horror indie breakout from Curry Barker nears $175 million at the worldwide box office. She bemoaned making only $300 per day for what she described as strenuous cross-department work. I've debated this for a long time, she wrote on Instagram. I've been holding a lot of weight over the past 2 years since the production of Obsession, so I'm going to say it as it is. She explained that the film was made for $750,000 and is now projected to make over $250 million. How much I made was $300 a day as an art director. This came out to be $6,700 after taxes, no mileage. You know, that's not even a living wage. If, let's say, you just did that for the year, that's not a living wage. Admitting that she knew and agreed to the indie production rate beforehand and was living paycheck to paycheck at the time, she explained, "This is the reality of most filmmakers, especially those who work below the line. We become a line in the budget sheet to keep as low as possible." Later in her post, she called on others from the production who may relate to her position to speak up. Maybe we can turn a tide in the film industry. Yeah, I saw a lot of people calling her like ungrateful and all this other shit, that she'll now get more opportunities, all this other garbage. When how I'm reading this is just being like, hey, this is just isn't like who's gonna get all this money? The production company, right? And as much as we cheer about the box office and it's back or whatever, the industry standard, even under capitalism, I mean, if we weren't doing capitalism, there'd be no wages and people would be doing it for love of the game. But even under capitalism, I believe movies should be way more like closer to co-ops. I mean, ideally, if we're still doing capitalism, I think just make it a co-op, but I know that would get really frustrating for a director or whatever compared to the studio hand or whatever. But like, to me, I don't even think it's that crazy to be like, all right, this movie not just exceeded expectations, went through the roof, right? Blew everything out of the water. Give out a bonus. All right, the art director, you talk about the art direction in that movie, you're like, that's really good. Yeah, we can hire her, like, she might get other jobs, but it's not guaranteed. But you know what we can do? All right, we made $250. All right, give her fucking $5 million. All right, director gets 15, the actors get 15 extra on top. You know what I mean? Like, and that way they can not have to worry about working that side job, and they can focus on, if they do get another opportunity, because here's the thing, they're like, oh, I made this amount of money. Like, what if it's the next role is like, oh, this would be a big role for you, but they only offer you $400 a day. You know what I mean? Like, their goal is to keep it low, like they're saying. They're always going to try to keep it low. Even the more ethical production companies, at the end of the day, they want to make sure costs are low, because it could be volatile, especially if you're making more horror movies or indie movies in general, right? Like, some movies, right, have like 10 to 20 freaking different producer credits, right? Because sometimes they need to ask for $100,000 here, $5,000 there, $10,000 there. Yeah, they need to cut out the middleman, and it's like, yeah, and like, I guess, someone would make an argument, right, that the production company is like a record label, where like, well, without them, the movie would never get put in any theaters, and there'd be no, marketing and whatnot. Sure. But $750K to $250 million, that isn't all on the people advertising it. Because guess what? You can reverse that same logic. If you don't have the same director, you don't have the same actors and actresses, you don't have the same art director, that movie doesn't get made, and you're not even making any money. They made the art. Talking about art versus content, this is why producers say content when the directors will say art. Because what they're trying to do is make this the best they can, because they love doing it, and because they have a story to tell. When the production company is just like, all right, story sounds good, all that, cool, whatever floats your boat, we really need to make this, we need to make sure we make our money back. And if we get any more, fantastic for us. Later in post, she called on others from the production who may relate to her position to speak up. Maybe we can turn a tide in the film industry, she wrote. Elsewhere in the post, she detailed other members of the Obsession crew as volunteers who were paid in gas and mileage. This wasn't even paid on time, so to make a $250 million grossing film, some of these amazing people had to come out of their pocket to work on set. This is outside of movies, plenty of people do this. Actually, to even take it a step further, to really point out this contradiction, especially in America, most people have to pay out of their pocket to get to work. Same shit. And the people who are like defending well, this is your fault, you didn't sign up, blah blah blah. Their contract didn't say that. The same people just pretend to ignore that, like the same contradictions, the same issues you have in this particular example apply to their day to day. Because it's bullshit that we all have to drive to work, which we have to pay for the car, pay for the car insurance, pay for the gas. You don't start getting paid until you clock in. I mean, even for my own job, just like they don't like compensate out anymore for like gas mileage and stuff because they can't afford it. So it's just like, fuck off, right? Like, it's just like, well, you're gonna go drive to that event, or you're gonna go drive to that, right? Like, it's always on the worker to pay out of pocket to just get to the job, and then you still gotta work the fucking job. When, let's be real, if the job didn't exist, you're not driving to your workplace for fun. Like, it's just stupid logic. Capitalism brain rot right there. Capitalism brain rot. And the fact that people had to pay out of pocket, and there's not a chance that they would get that money back. They're doing it because they love the art enough, and they care. I kick myself every single day for not flipping this production. I was encouraged not to, and I naively listened. She had a whole post here. As in the case for most low-budget productions, everyone has to wear many hats. Through my official title as art director, I was also a PA, a set dresser, a graphic designer, a background actor, a driver, swing, and buyer. I was doing runs for the art department. Again, no mileage. I was shopping, loading, returning, while the rest of the crew were on set. Thank you, Jeff Barker, for helping me through these times. I had to wrap Bear's house that was left an absolute mess without water or crafties left behind. I shopped an entire location, Ian's house, and loaded the truck the same day for shoot the next day, which also happened to be overnight. It took such a physical toll on my body that I kept losing weight, weighing 90 pounds during this production. I say this all to finally have my peace. I know this is bigger than Obsession or Corey and his team, and it's not about that. I know this is even bigger than the film industry. If you feel called to have this discussion with me, please do so. I'm willing to be wrong because I know I'm probably missing information or my perspective is just a drop in the bucket. If you're a crew member on Obsession and feel called to share your rate, maybe we can turn a tide in the film industry. I can see how maybe some people get pissy about that because I really, you get really excited about something. You're like, well, my favorite thing, they can't be anything negative about it. And I don't think they're like she's like this. She's not really calling out specifically the crew. It's more than just the fact that the crew had to do all this. Your job sends you on the assignment, you don't pay for mileage. I was requested to no longer do requests. Granted, have we said no now to some assignments that take mileage? Yes. But there's been some that I don't get compensation for. Or there's plenty of times I have to go to campus for, one little thing out after hours, right? And that doesn't get compensated. Luckily, I live 10 minutes away, so it's not the end of the world, or doesn't feel as bad. But there's plenty of people who work farther, right? Or there's people who pay out of pocket for, to do things, right? Like for their job. I gotta buy a backpack. I gotta buy a new phone. I gotta buy a new laptop. I gotta buy, new shoes. I gotta buy new clothes so I fit the part. Does the employer ever pay for any of those things? No. Because once you start thinking about all those things, obviously you get kind of stressed. But it's the truth. If jobs are transactions, but it's treated as if it's the luxury, and like Yes, because you could be working a shittier job or you can be unemployed, sure. But then that turns into, well, we can get away without providing you any of the tools or the things that are required for you. Because, you know, you're out of college, right? Maybe you don't have any office attire or whatever your job is. How many times do you have to go buy work boots or whatever, right? If you work a more blue collar job, how many companies actually provide their workers with work boots? They'll require you to have them so you can get on the job site, but they won't pay for it. Or maybe they'll pay for one pair, right? But they break down every 3 months. But yeah, I mean, like, they worked a lot of hours, and they feel a little. I mean, you should feel gypped. Like I said, you can apply this to almost any type of job. Every job, because that's it. That's how capitalism works. Is the workers create something with their bare hands, and then the employer, you know, will charge 3 times of how much it took to make it, and then they'll keep, you know, 98% of it. Shitty companies don't. In order for a company to stay in business, they have to make money. And the only way you do that is by, you know, like I said, even good companies, even the ones that have the good labels, are 100% stealing from their workers every time, because that's how capitalism works. And the movie industry is no different. The movie industry, like I said, is that weird gray area where there is plenty of people who do it out of love of the game and for the art aspect. But these production companies will take advantage of that. Because the answer to that production company will say to them is like, well, you can get a different job. Oh, you don't like the pay cut? Go get a different job then. Or, hey, well, you might get other opportunities. But that's not a guarantee. Because people are doing Chat GPT to do art direction now. You know? You had Scorsese invest in this fucking AI bullshit. I saw The Rock today talk about AI. You know, so that's why I'm like, it's, yeah. Art director making $300 a day is a livable wage. One thing people don't understand about the film industry, it's feast or famine. You may not work for weeks or months. That money has to be saved and amortized. Then the Inception crew lives in LA, so they're paying... Can I open this? Yes. So living in LA, so they're paying the gas, highest utilities, highest insurance. To be fair, they keep voting for it, but that's another story. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about California politics. A 14-hour day doesn't account for 1 hour of traffic each way. Indies can routinely go for 12 to 18 hours a day. Art department is an especially brutal crew. They are first to get on set, the last to leave, no set, no shoot. Then crew heads don't really get paid for the time. Reading the script, free. Thinking about it, free. Talking with the director, free. Creative discussion, creative obsessing, detail planning on weekends, free, free, free. The time on the clock is not the time on the job. What did I just fucking say, man? It's the same shit with your job. We all have to go, we all have to pay to go to work. You have to pay to even play. Same shit. And it's, like I said, it's definitely worse. One of the worst industries of this is the film industry. $300 a day on an 18-hour day before gas and any expenses is $16 an hour. Then the off-the-clock work is double that, so $8 an hour. Now save that to survive the next actor or writer strike. This is why unions also need strike funds and mutual aid funds to make that work. To at least make this survivable. Is it a livable wage? Sure. In Iowa, if you're a mid-level stripper, but not a film crew in LA. Yeah. But, yeah, I just saw some people talking about that, and it's like, people quick to jump and attack this person are like, just feel just like, the people are just like, my favorite thing is being criticized. I need to defend it to oblivion. It's like, no, you could still love Obsession. I love Obsession. It's probably gonna be my top 5 for the year. But, like, we can still take a step back and be like, hey, yes, this movie made a shit ton of money. Let's reward the people who made it. Because there's a lot of people behind the scenes. Like, yes, we think of the actors and actresses. We think of the directors. We think of the writers. But there's plenty of people who do engage with that and don't get enough credit for it. It's like the janitor who cleans all your fucking toilets at the office, who probably gets paid the least in your office. No one thinks about these people. You know? And especially with art, man. Like I said, in the world of AI and world apocalypse, we should be rewarding artists as much as we can, because it's so tough out there. And I'm happy that these movies are doing well in the box office, not because, I want these production companies to make as much money as possible. Like I said, the dream is for me that, there's no capitalism. I really do believe we'd have way more art and way more interesting art to engage with. God, we'd probably have a million movie theaters, But the reason you kind of cheer for the box office is because that means that maybe these production companies at least will give a little bit more crumbs to the new generation of actors, directors, writers, creative people. At least I hope so. But you got to see it, the contradiction of, like, yes, that does mean that they will still take advantage. And that's what we just gotta you gotta kind of take that step back and think about it. You can critique these things and engage with these things. No ethical consumption under capitalism. That doesn't mean you just let everything go. It doesn't mean that we don't, like I said, doesn't mean we just completely discount everything. It means we still have to think about it and talk about it and try the best we can, while also still trying to do the art, But I've been talking too much. Just wound up becoming the longest episode. I thought it was going to be a short episode. I even texted Ethan beforehand. I was like, yeah, I haven't really watched too much. But then I'm like, man, I did see that one headline, and I didn't think I would talk as much about it. But I'm going to end it here, because I could be rambling all night. And I'm happy I got something out of this. Or I got the length out of this that like I said, I didn't think I would get. But we have a lot of stuff coming up on the channel. We have the last trivia game show coming up with Ethan and David, where I'm your host. That should be on Sunday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. That should be on Sunday. You should see a thing pop up soon. I gotta edit the description at some point here. But I know Ethan has I think it's NBA 2K there of PlayStation, Summer of PS3 there on PlayStation 3. That should be out tomorrow. And I'm sure I'm missing something else. There's other stuff coming out as we go. Like I said, there might not be another episode of this, but I will say I'm hoping, because I'm not this weekend, but next weekend I'm shooting a thing for this channel, and we'll see how it comes out. It'll be short, but I'm hoping it comes out how I want it to come out. Oh, NBA 07. My bad. 2K, NBA, how about them Knicks, But yeah, we're a variety channel. If you enjoy this, I do other movie reviews, but this is the one more frequent one. Like I said, I try to do it every other week. So if you enjoy it, engage with the content and like it, and subscribe if you want. It goes a long way, supposedly. So yeah, we'd love to see you next time, and on new stuff for the next Devon's movie dungeon. I'm Devon, and you're the audience. Thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all at the theater. Okay, bye bye.